Hi, I'm Yusla, and this is BurnabyConnect. Today we're looking on how COVID affects the youth.
Hi.
I've always loved books since I was a kid, and I've always read them. I've always collected them, and my husband also. He's a huge book collector.
My love of books started even before I was old enough to read them. My mom has a photograph of me as a little guy with a bunch of board books and just like taking them into my crib. And I became a passionate reader from my childhood on. Any writer that I've ever met is usually obsessed with literature and books. You have ancestors in the covers. There's so many reasons that I love books.
And I'm so fortunate to be around books all day. I'm so lucky. I'm so grateful. It's incredible. It's wonderful. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I go to a bookstore every day. So for me, that's not work. That's just fun.
I used to shop at a local used bookstore, and the owner said, you really know your books and you really love books. I need a part-time employee. Would you like a job? And I said, yes, absolutely. You develop a relationship with the customer, even if it's their first time in. I like to ask questions about what they've read in the past and what they've enjoyed. Go from there sometimes to challenge them by reading something new.
We have an amazing community, especially after we had to shut down for COVID. We were closed for 2 full months and then some. But when we reopened, we had the community response was amazing. It was actually, we were overwhelmed. Placing new book orders, just the sales were great. We have a wonderful community. I love all different kinds of books as long as it's a good story. Historical fiction, fantasy. Patrick Rothfuss's The Name of the Wind is still amazing. There's so many, and I wish I could read more and faster. There's just...
Excuse me for a sec. Did I just hear you citing Name of the Wind?
Yes, they're just doing an interview.
Oh, okay, well, I just wanted to back up that. That was a recommendation.
Thank you.
Wholeheartedly.
Thanks.
Next up is how COVID has been impacting high school sports.
My name is Val Dillon. I am a teacher by trade, and for the past 5 years I've been the community school coordinator at Burn Creek Community School. I have been coaching since I was in grade 11, which I won't tell you how many years that is, so as not to date myself. And I've been coaching at Burn Creek since 2011 when I was a student teacher here.
What are your thoughts about the sports season being potentially cancelled?
Thoughts and feelings. So feelings, super sad. Every coach has a different motivation for coaching and a different pedagogy and reason for doing it. It's a lot of volunteer hours, a lot of effort, and you don't get paid for it. And so we do it for our own reasons. And for me, I do it as a service to community and to young people in the community. And it was a service that was given to me when I was young, and it really impacted me. And so to be able to pay that forward to the next generations coming after me is really meaningful to me. And so I feel very sad about not being able to do that right now and having it potentially canceled, and most likely canceled, it seems. My thoughts on it are that public health and public safety have to come first. And I think in order to keep youth and coaches, adults, the community at large safe, it seems like a necessary to me. And I want to be clear, I'll repeat that. It seems necessary to me to cancel. One of the discrepancies in youth sports right now is between high school sports and club sports. And club sports seem to be running, whereas high school sports are not allowed to run. And so I wonder how we can get on the same page. I also wonder how safe it is if the high schools start competing. I don't think it's a good idea from a public health standpoint. That being said, I am sad that this is happening. When this is over, and it will be over one day, we will once again embrace sport. I hope the impact on this generation right now isn't too negative in that it removes the love of sport from their life.
What are your thoughts on the way the government is handling COVID-19 in schools throughout BC?
I think they can take better precautions to prevent the spread of COVID since we've already had outbreaks?
I think they're doing as good a job as they can. I mean, it's people that are not social distancing, but they've been putting laws and stuff in order.
Doesn't seem like they've got a very clear plan.
It hasn't been handled the best way, and I think there were better options.
I said we just shut down all the schools. I don't want to die.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I say we shut down schools. If we're on lockdown, I think schools gotta be locked down too. Because if we can have more than, like, if I could only see my family members at home, but I'm going to school and I could be around all you people, it doesn't really make no sense.
I'm a professor in the Faculty of Health Sciences at Simon Fraser.
I'm the representative for children and youth at BC, which doesn't tell you very much. So, but basically what the role is to provide an independent oversight of child, youth, and family services in the province of British Columbia.
People often say, well, it costs a lot and there are scarce resources. And I always push back on that. Because we're a high income country. We spend a huge amount on healthcare. We spend a huge amount on, certain aspects of healthcare, like acute care and care for seniors. But if we invested just a little bit really early in life, we could actually, I think, quite easily pay for those prevention and treatment programs. So one figure our group has identified, if you prevent just one serious case of a behavior problem, something called conduct disorder, that's a very serious form of behavior problem, but if you prevent just one young person from developing that problem, over the course of their lifetime, you will save $5 million in expenses that you didn't have to cover, like hospital costs, emergency room costs, foster care, special education, or even justice system costs, policing and the jail system. So we can pay for this, we can afford this. Those are some of the messages I want to be giving to the policymakers.
One of the things, and you'll know this, that young people don't vote because they don't have the vote until you're 18. So you're not seen as a constituency that is front and center in the minds of politicians. So that might sound a little bit jaded, but I think it is important that where are young people's voices in the discussion and the awareness. The other thing is that our systems of service and support tend to be more short-term thinking. It's like in the cycle of politics. Or on annual budget cycles. And what Charlotte's talking about, and I think it's such a fundamental point, if we can prevent problems in the early years, then we will save long term. But there's two things about that. We'll never know what didn't happen.
Yes.
Because somebody will be thriving, but we don't know whether the intervention helped or not, so it's harder to measure. And the other thing is that it doesn't fit as well with a short-term mindset, because it's like, oh, well, the return on investment is a number of years down the way. So there is something about the ways in which decisions get made that is more of a short-term thinking. And that's not a blaming statement. It's just kind of a reality. So it's really important for us to keep bringing this home and say, what kind of a society do we want to be, and how do we want to lift our kids up?
I think at a minimum, we need to be doubling the child and youth mental health services that we have available. I don't mean hospital beds, I mean in the community, which is really effective. We can reach people there in a way that's works really well for young people. So it doesn't have to be as expensive as you might think. The other thing, just to build on one of your points, Jennifer, for all of those concerns that I mentioned that we predict are going to increase and have likely already increased, we know how to prevent those, and we know how to treat those. So if children are already struggling, if teenagers are already struggling, we have really effective treatments for anxiety. We have really effective treatments for depression and post-traumatic stress. And for younger kids, we have effective treatments for behavior problems. So we know what to do, and these are all psychosocial interventions. Don't involve high tech, don't involve a lot of very expensive venues like hospitals. So we need to ramp up, we need to double what's available and make sure we provide those effective interventions. But to me, it's even more hopeful that maybe a young person isn't struggling yet, or maybe they're just in the early stages with maybe something like bad anxiety. There are prevention interventions that work very, very effectively as well. So we should be offering those alongside of treatment so that kids don't have to get into a state of really, really being highly distressed and maybe not able to keep going to school or not able to keep functioning. We know how to prevent things getting that bad. So it's a combination of double what we're doing, double down on effective things, but add prevention into the mix.
Due to not being able to travel, people say Christmas is canceled.
We are here at Kensington Square today, and we are going to ask people about it.
I think it's understandable what the government wants to do just to try and mitigate this.
I think they're rightfully in place. I think that COVID is a big danger to everyone, and it's pretty scary times, and there's a lot of people in danger. I mean, it's kind of a crappy situation, but I mean, we're all in it, so.
The guidelines, I feel like you should follow it. Just keep other people safe, like just because it doesn't affect you doesn't mean you're not affecting other people.
I think that we all just have to tough it out. I think it's hard on everybody not being able to be with family members and stuff like that this time of the season, but I think it's just best that we just heed the advice.
I feel like it's fair. We gotta flatten the curve, keep everyone safe, not let the Americans in at this time.
You gotta get Americans.
I agree because I want everything to go back to normal.
I don't think traveling should happen unless it's within your family, just to keep everyone safe.
I mean, it's a good idea. I mean, reducing transmission as much as possible is pretty dire right now. I mean, the thing is, lots of people are going to anyways, but I mean, if you put in hard lines, at least the majority will obey. I would hope. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Not having other family members allowed in your home, I think that's a bit much.
I co-parent, so had to go through this during the first shutdown, where I didn't see my kids for probably 2.5 months. So at least this time, they're not stopping that. They recognize that people should be able to co-parent and stuff like that, and the kids go to both parents' house.
From BurnabyConnect, I'm Joseph. Back to you, Isa.
Flying has been affected by COVID. We went to the Vancouver airport to see how it's changed.
The pandemic's had a significant impact, obviously, on our business. We've seen a significant amount of our flights reduced. So mostly now all we're seeing is essential travel only. I think we're going to see ourselves coming out of this pandemic much stronger as an airport. We're going to be much more efficient. And we're also trialing new technologies. So for that is very exciting for us. You know that we have enhanced cleaning protocols. We've got robotics that we're testing, autonomous scrubbers, and stuff that passengers don't see as well. We've got UV lights that are installed in our handrails on our escalators. So we're constantly evolving and trialing new technologies to make sure the passenger journey is always safe. Traveling right now through YVR has actually never been safer. Earlier this year, we launched our Take Care program, which is our safety and confidence package that really takes passengers from curb to cloud safely and confidently. We've got a number of measures in place to make sure our passengers stay healthy and safe. And that really starts from our curb. We're actually limiting the amount of people that can come into the terminal to travelers only. Once you step inside, there's hand sanitizer stations in abundance to make sure that your hands are sanitized and stay safe. We also highly recommend to our travelers before arriving at the airport that they use all of our self-service technology. So most of our airline partners have touchless kiosks and touchless processes, so the passenger journey is actually mostly contactless. As well, we also have temperature screening prior to boarding at aircraft at our security screening points. And then obviously post-security, we've got increased sanitizing stations and other cleaning enhanced protocols in place as well. I think for many people that have to travel, it's an essential. They want to make sure that journey is as safe as possible, not only for themselves, but their loved ones as well. So they're giving us feedback if they're seeing things that they perceive aren't being clean, or if they're seeing passengers that are not wearing masks. they're instantly tweeting us and letting us know so we can respond immediately and take action. I think all of us in the airport community have really banded together. We all have a part to play to make sure that we keep our airport safe. So as an airport authority, we, as part of our safety and confidence package, we have our caretakers. So that's a group of airport authority staff from cross departments that go throughout the terminal, making sure that passengers are sanitizing upon entering the terminal, they are wearing masks, they are social distancing, and they're also testing our cleaning protocols as well. So we have mobile ATP testers, so we can swab surfaces and immediately test those to make sure they're clean. So we're actually auditing our cleaning as we go throughout the terminal. So that's been a fantastic teamwork and collaboration that we see not only within our organization, but we're also seeing it with our service partners and airline partners as well.
Hi, I'm Aiden from BurnabyConnect, and today I'm here with Mr. Ronsley, the principal of Burnaby North. So, Mr. Ronsley, how has your job changed after the pandemic?
It's changed a lot, actually. I mean, certainly the parts of my job that were there before are still there, but some of the pieces that have been added on are definitely new. You know, in March when we shifted to remote, getting sort of that up and running and helping people wrap their heads around what sort of the focus needed to become in terms of making sure that people could finish off the year, but also making sure that we were focusing primarily on students' mental health and wellness. And then, you know, as we shifted into the summer and started looking at what the school year, starting a new school year, would look like in our new landscape, it became a whole new thing, everything from changing the timetable structures and looking at staggered starts and learning groups and things that had never been in our vocabulary before when we'd been building schools. You know, and in recent times, it's really just about adjusting to that landscape, about, you know, as the goalposts move and we become aware of, you know, if we're faced with an exposure at the school, what does that look like and what does communication sound like for our community? You know, overall, I think the focus has still been the same about ultimately how do we ensure that North is an amazing place for students to learn, where everybody is safe and people are excited to be back at school.
And what's something you've learned from dealing with a global pandemic?
Oh man, the endless number of things. I think, you know, we were joking with the staff, some staff members the other day, that I think one of the things for all of us is that this whole piece has pushed us into a state of learning that we might not have asked for or might not have wanted, and certainly not in this landscape. But you know, whether it's looking at some of the learning around blended learning programs and what makes an effective hybrid program, right? That's one of the bits of feedback we're getting from students, is that those afternoons where you're not in class in person can be really great, but they can also be really flat depending on how it's been set up. You know, looking at the importance, I don't know if it's something that I learned, but it's certainly something that was reinforced around just the importance of strong relationships and trust and transparent communication. You know, some of the work you do in the years leading up to something like this enables you to navigate it maybe more successfully than a place might be if you didn't have those relationships in place. You know, and I think the other piece is just some of the systemic pieces that we think about, whether it's around the timetable. I've always been really fascinated in just different structures and different routines and what school might look like, as opposed to the structure that we've had for 100 years. And so this has sort of given us an opportunity to explore not only what it needs to look like right now to navigate the pandemic, but what school structures could look like and what students can do when given the space and time to dive into things deeper with larger chunks of time or in a more sort of flexible fashion. Nobody would say that this is where we want to be right now, but certainly there are opportunities. And here, I think in particular, we've kind of got two opportunities, right? We've got this current landscape and we've got a new building that's being built. And the building is going to force some of the way we think about teaching and learning because it's organized very differently. So we've already been working with staff around that. But I think some of the ways that it certainly has pushed us into a positive place, definitely improving teachers' use of technology. You know, technology is a scary thing for a lot of teachers. And so needing to shift to a Teams-based platform where they could at least support kids when they needed to remotely has been very positive. I think for our staff, again, just reinforcing the trust and relationships piece has been very positive. You know, and I think too, one of the pieces that's not a measurable thing, but has really stood out for me is just how supportive the students have been of each other. And in coming back, you know, we often forget how much school means to us. We complain about needing to be at school. You know, we complain about needing to come to work until it's gone. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh, man, I've missed school. I want to get back to school, or I want to get back to work. And so just, you know, seeing how excited students are to be back and how excited teachers are to feel students, you know, energy back in the building. that's been very, very positive for us.
So a lot of students are concerned about the effectiveness of the cohort system.
Yeah.
So how would you say it's kind of just as good as, or how does it work well?
Yeah, I think the cohort piece was a piece that as educators we had to wrap our head around early on too, because it was something that hadn't been part of the discussion in the spring, and works very differently at the different levels. In elementary school, cohorts and learning groups work really well, right? The students are with the teacher most of the time already. It's more about what does that look like at lunchtime and what does that look like in terms of buddy classes and some of those sort of things. For us in grade 8 and 9, it works really well too. You know, we're able to basically run it like a middle school model where students stay together in a cohort for most of the year, and that works because the course options in grade 8 and 9 are very limited compared to grade 10, 11, or 12. The challenge, I think, for all schools is in 10, 11, or 12, having learning groups in their truest sense doesn't work because it would dramatically limit the options.
Do you believe that it's possible for students to get the same level of education as they would with a normal system, as with the cohort system?
Yeah, I do, although I think it depends dramatically on how it's set up. Like there's been some changes in education over quite a long period of time, but certainly in the last 5 years with the shift in curriculum. And certain courses are farther along that continuum. So if you think of the experience you guys are part of, I think this system actually lends itself really well to that because you are already used to working independently and having big chunks of time. I think in your typical math class, that's a harder adjustment for a lot of teachers where you've got maybe a more traditional teacher deliver, student be the receiver of information model. So I think that's been a challenge. I think, you know, moving forward, if we wanted to do it, it's really on the adults in the building to think about how we view learning. And if it's about content memorization, then maybe this isn't as effective. But education now shouldn't be about content memorization. You guys have access to all the content in the world on your phones. So it's really about how do we give you the space to take learning deeper, not worry about doing a million little things, but maybe 5 or 6 really big things.
And doing them well.
And doing them well, yeah.
So if everything goes to plan, what does the rest of the year look like for students?
Well, if things look like they do right now in terms of the current health landscape, it'll look very similar. So we'll continue on with our learning groups through the end of June. You know, fingers crossed that could change and we move back to stage 1 and everybody's back in school full time. That would be great, but that's not what we're planning for right now. There could be sort of 5 stages that we shift to, but that would be our best case scenario right now. As we get to spring and we start doing course selection, we'll be planning for the fall. And right now, I would guess that we're probably planning for something similar-ish. But again, that could shift. I know we learned last year a lot that, you know, whatever we thought we were planning for changed by the day or by the week or by the month. So that'll be the plan right now. And then as we start thinking about the longer term piece, it will be, are there some structural pieces that we've learned through this experience that might shift the structures of school as we plan for the second half of next year and beyond.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching.
Today, we sat with one of the up-and-coming music producers here in Vancouver about the music industry and how it has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Here's what he had to say.
Hi, I'm Ian. I'm an aspiring music producer, artist, and session guitarist here in Vancouver. Basically, my job as a music producer is to bring artists over and I help them record and arrange their music. I also make my own music and play the guitar and the bass on other people's songs. But recently, COVID has been a big challenge for us as musicians because we can't have concerts anymore, and performing is really the best way for us to get exposure. And also, ticket sales are the biggest part of the musician revenue, so that is a big challenge for us. Also, as a producer, it's harder for me to bring people over. I have to sanitize all the surfaces, the instruments, and the microphone, and that does reduce their lifespan a little bit. And also, we all have to be wearing masks all the time, which makes it really hard for me to read their reactions to what I'm doing on the desk. If I was to give a message to any other aspiring artists, I would say, be kind. Especially during these tough times, it's very important to be someone who people want to have around. Also, don't spend too much money on gear because affordable gear nowadays is very, very good. And ultimately, it comes down to your skill and how much effort you put into your craft.
Thank you, Ian Dutra, for taking us on a journey through your day-to-day life as a music producer here in Vancouver. Best of luck to you.
Hello, I'm Ahil Samani from BurnabyConnect. Today I'm interviewing the musical artist Kalyan Rath from the Sunny Side Collective. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. How would you describe your musical style?
It's very all over the place for sure. I'm at a point where I'm just trying to figure out my sound and kind of figure out what I wanna do. So I've currently released 3 EPs, and they're all completely different genres of music. The 4th one coming up is also completely different than the rest, because I'm at that point where it's like I'm not quite sure that I haven't quite decided where I really want to go into, kind of thing. So I'm just like super experimenting, and hopefully one day one of these genres will just kind of click and I'll stick with it. Maybe I'll come up with my own genre or something like that. So yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the song that you were about to perform for us and what it's about?
Yes, the song that I'm performing is an unreleased song called Lanes. The song was very recently written. It's still kind of in the works, but I've just wanted to share it, so I decided to take this opportunity to share it. The song is kind of about a reality check, in a sense, for myself and for everyone that's kind of like listening to me. I feel that I have gone to a point in my career where a lot of people are listening to me to kind of put me down now. Like I've gotten to that point. Like most of the time it was like it used to only be my friends, right? And they just support me. But now it's like I've gotten a few more listeners, and then a few of them don't like me, and to the point where they're gonna take their time to kind of like put me down. So I was like, I'm gonna write this song so that hopefully if they're listening to my music, then they'll hear this song and it'll be kind of like a reality check for them, being like, why am I taking this effort to go and put this guy down? Like, let me go do something with my life, kind of thing, right? And yeah, it was just basically hopefully it'll be a reality check kind of for anyone listening to it, not just the haters, but it'll be more of like just kind of a realization of like, if you work hard, you can get to this certain goal that I'm kind of like describing in the song. And you don't need to focus on anyone else, otherwise you'll kind of sound like these other people that I'm also describing in the song.
Thank you for coming on the show. I've been Ahil from BurnabyConnect. Thank you for watching.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
If we really got a problem, then you claim no big check. This a game, whoa, hard either in the brain. Things have never been the same, whoa. If we really got a problem, then you lame, no big check. Circle small, this a game, whoa, hard either in the brain. I hope it goes away. I've been feeling major pain like this, a big dog barking in my lane, no. Contemplating with my story in the fame, whoa. All this stress will go away when I'm in Spain, whoa. Do I wanna make it that far, whoa. Then I watch the way I dance, and I get inside my groove, and I hit the money there and said, don't you wanna be a rock star? Say you made it, but I'd rather be dead than live basic. Big checks out of my pocket, I got big plans, I might not stop it, cause I am self-produced, and you little boys are still in tight beats. I got myself a bag this year, you wish that you was like me. If we really got a problem, then you lame, no big checks. Circle small, this a game, whoa. Hard either in the brain, I hope it goes away. I've been feeling major pain like this, a big dog barking in my lane, no. Contemplating with my story in the fame, whoa. All this stress will go away when I'm in Spain, whoa. Do I wanna make it that far, whoa. Then I watch the way I dance, and I get inside my groove, and I hit the money there and said, don't you wanna be a rock star? Say you made it, but I'd rather be dead and live basic.
I